to shows and read reviews online at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando,
And I'm Mindy McFan.
and it's movie time.
Yes, it is.
Is it time for another Wes Anderson?
Always.
All right,
Always.
okay.
I'm going in this prejudice, I'm telling you right now. Going into this, I'm going to be honest.
All right, the theaters are flooded now with the French Dispatch.
Yes.
Not the Columbus Dispatch, the French Dispatch.
Looks very different.
What's the setup, Mindy?
It is a newspaper. A man has a small newspaper, and then he makes a different newspaper in France. And the movie is 3 vignettes of 3 writers and their stories that they're trying to get published in the magazine for that month or week or whatever it is.
Probably set in the 60s, I guess, at least with the protests.
Yes,
This 1968 would be the protests,
I would
otherwise
say so.
you're not going to.
Yeah.
But, what is it? How can I identify this as a Wes Anderson film?
Oh, it's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. It is like spending a couple hours in an art museum. I mean, there's so much visual to look at. I mean, the detail. The set designer and all the people on it. I don't know how you even coordinate that many details. I mean, like, at one point they pull a piece of paper off the wall and a bit of the tape sticks to the wall, and I knew it was on purpose. There's a hose reeled up and there's a little rag lying on it. I mean, the intentionality of the aesthetics blows your mind.
It does, and I have to agree, it is more detailed than any Wes Anderson I've seen, but it just reeks of his nostalgia, the word I think other people use is the really good one, whimsy.
Yes.
Would you say whimsical?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, you've got your different stories. Now you say 3 sections, and there are, I think, about 5 stories in those 3 sections.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's what I would dream about. France, mid 20th century. It would be as if I had been there, come back, and was thinking about it.
Right. That's a very good example. What it reminded me of and what drew me back is my first exposure to France was the Red Balloon.
Oh yes.
And that kind of beautiful grittiness. And I mean, as a little kid, I thought it was. I looked for the backpack that kid wore in that movie for like years. I tried to get that leather backpack. I thought it was the coolest, most French thing in the world. So that's what it made me think of.
He's also trying to maybe make some sort of praise of the news business, particularly the weekly magazines such as the New Yorker. Right?
Absolutely.
And there are editors he refers to here who were H.L. Mencken and others who were noted New Yorker editors. And I think he brings, do you think, well, I mean, at least I think he does bring some honor to the profession.
That's that's a perfect word.
Okay.
Because it made me think of the level of writing that have passed through the pages of the New Yorker. And now, because my husband's a copywriter, I hear a lot about this. That we're supposed to write, at a like 6th or 7th grade level and all those kind of things. And it's just the beauty of the people that have passed through the New Yorker and the things they have written out in the world. It just takes your breath away.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty clear that Anderson wanted you to feel as if you were reading one of their extensive New Yorker stories.
Yes.
And that goes back to your point about the detail. Kind of detail you can get only in print. I think he tries to replicate and does a very good job of it. And it means to me that there's less of a cohesive story to it and more of a style. Would that be, do you think that resonates with anything you can think about that?
I understand what you mean, because there is a very tableau feeling to it, not in every way, shape, and form.
Right.
So it's like, I can see what you mean. It is not a clear story.
Yes.
It is more, it's more like a really odd documentary.
Thank you, yes. Yeah. A pastiche of stories. Because if you're going to look for a through line, you're not going to get it except for what we've talked about.
Yes, and that's just, I mean, Bill Murray's very small in the movie.
Yes.
And so is the home magazine. It's not the central point.
Yes. Yeah, so actually this was some Midwestern magazine, as you said, that decided that it would do a weekly on France and set up its station there in, what was Ennui-sur-Blasé?
I loved that.
That's the city,
Oh.
Ennui-sur-Blasé.
Because ennui is one of my favorite words. I don't know why, but I love that word.
Isn't that great?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's Anderson just wanting you to enjoy
Oh,
his sense
details.
of the fantasy.
Yes.
There, any episode of the 5 or the 3 sections that stands out for you that you'd want to point out to people to look for?
Well, I gotta say, Tilda Swinton was amazing. I can say this about all of them. I thought everybody did such a brilliant job of riding the rail that it didn't get farcical. I mean, they were oddly believable characters in very odd circumstances.
Yes.
But everybody, I mean, what's her name who played the Muse? I can't think of
Leia,
it.
yes.
Anyways,
Yeah, no, I think it's Leia Seydoux.
okay.
L-E-A.
She played the Muse, and
Wasn't she wonderful?
she was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was so believable in that world.
Yeah.
In the world. I mean, I guess I'm a little prejudiced about that because of the art involved. I loved at one point when he came in and he was showing the art that they had waited, all these art dealers had waited so long for it, and they're looking at it and they go, it's a fresco in a mental hospital. Oh my gosh, I laughed for 5 minutes. I thought that was hilarious. What a brilliant, I mean, that's one of the things I love about Wes Anderson and John Irving's my favorite author. And what they have in common for me is they both create these worlds that are so believable to me because they're worlds that exist in my head.
But they're a little wacky.
But that
That's right. That's true.
They normalize difference, and they make it. I always think they make it almost Leave It to Beaver gone crazy, because there's so many touching, sweet, emotional, relational things going on in this, noodly world.
You mentioned Tilda Swinton, and I think that's the Benicio del Toro segment. Isn't he the artist?
Yes.
He's the artist.
Yes, and she's doing a TED Talk or something.
And that's perhaps the most cohesive of them all, I think. And it's the one I think of too, because he is just, he's wild as an artist. And he is, and yet his muse is both his jailer and his nude model. And then Tilda Swinton is selling the art, right?
Yeah.
And that puts together the story pretty well.
Well, and I love the idea of his nude model has complete power over him. I mean, that's a great juxtaposition as a woman to watch that. She is calling all the shots, including when she takes her clothes off. It's just...
Yes, right, yes.
Which
is strangely, even today, a bit shocking to some people in the audience, I thought. I thought I could feel a little shock. He's fully nude.
Yeah.
And it's not just a fleeting. But that's...
Beautiful.
But it's typical.
Yeah.
That he should expect you to appreciate his, whatever his commentary is on art and on imprisonment.
Yes. I mean, there's mental health. There's so many, just like the set has so many layers, so does the story. I mean, you could pick apart and discuss and talk about this ad infinitum, because there's so many little moments where, like Timothy
Chalamet.
Yeah, and
it's a good one, yes. Frances McDormand, the favorite of ours, the two of us.
Oh, yes. The age thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could talk about that as being immoral or whatever you want to say, and then you realize what she does, and the sacrifice or whatever. She does the right thing.
She's the reporter, right?
Yes.
And he is the leader of the student group.
Yes.
And she falls for him. She takes his virginity, as she tells us, but she also gives him something.
She lets him go.
Yeah. So, and that's real. And I think McDormand is maybe new to the Wes Anderson stable. Maybe, I don't know. I can't remember if she.
I think she was a voice wasn't she a voice in the Fox one?
Oh, she's the Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah, I think she was a voice.
Boy, wow! Talk about one of my favorite animations of all time.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely
brilliant.
Yep.
Now that has more cohesion to it. It's more of a story, and I think that had who was the voice of George Clooney,
Mhm.
I think, was the voice of Mr. Fox. But anyway, so Clooney doesn't appear in these.
Right.
But Adrian Brody comes back, right?
Yep.
And Chalamet is new.
The guy from Bottle Rocket.
Oh, yeah,
Or
Owen
from,
Wilson.
not from Bottle Rocket, yeah.
Owen Wilson is right.
In it, but from, oh, what's the other one? He was in Bill Cosby, or he was in, he plays the kid at the school. Can't think of his name.
All right.
He had a little vignette, but he's in all of his movies too.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right, here we are. We're getting whimsical ourselves about Wes. Well, what Mindy what advice would you give our audience about this film?
To see it more than once.
Great, because I need to see it more.
Yes.
Because
Because the beauty is sometimes distracting. It's almost like a movie that just has this incredible expanse of cinematography, and I'm so busy looking at the scenery, I miss a minute of dialogue. I was so intent upon looking at every detail, sometimes I missed what was going on, so I think it's definitely worth seeing twice. It's such a joy to be in a theater and see something so beautiful.
yes.
So I say go to a theater.
And don't expect it to make a whole lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But do expect to enjoy his images, the details you're talking about, and his fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any of your own fantasy, you will see that Wes is your person.
Yeah.
And also you will note then how brilliant I am to have you talk with me about it, so that I
Such
knew
a treat.
you would be a Wes Anderson file.